are going to also put AC inverter 1, AC bus 2 on.
Okay, AC inverter 1 to AC bus 2 on.
That's correct. Back to panel 5. Circuit breaker. GPS sensor signal. AC 1 and 2 closed.
Stand by, Ken. I'm going to switch up here. You got cut out.
Roger.
Okay, could you repeat that, please?
Okay, on panel 5, circuit breakers, EPS, sensor, signal, AC 1 and 2, closed.
Okay, CB, EPS, sensor signal, AC1 and AC2.
That's correct. Circuit breaker, EPS, sensor, unit, AC 1 and 2, closed.
Okay, CB, EPS, sensor unit, AC1 and AC2 closed.
That's correct. And circuit breaker, caution and warning, main A, closed.
CB, caution and warning, main A closed.
That's correct. On panel 3, AC inverter, AC bus 1 and 2. Want to reset and back to the center.
Okay, AC inverter, bus 1 and 2, reset, then center.
That's correct. On panel 225, circuit breaker, flight bus, main A and main B, closed.
Okay, panel. Okay, CB, flight bus, main A and main B closed.
That's correct. CB, CTE, main A and main B, closed.
CB, CTE, main A and main B closed.
That's correct. On panel 4, telecom, group 1, AC 1.
Telecom group 1 to AC1.
And telecom group 2 to AC 2.
Telecom group 2 to AC2.
That's correct. On panel 3, S-band normal transponder to primary.
S-band normal transponder to primary.
That's correct. We want to take power, SCE, to normal.
Power SCE to normal.
All right, and power, PMP, to normal.
Power PMP to normal.
That's correct. And up telemetry command reset to reset and then normal.
Up telemetry command reset to reset then normal.
Okay. On panel 2, up telemetry, CMC to accept.
Up telemetry CMC to accept.
On panel 275, circuit breaker, flight post landing, main A and main B closed.
A panel 275, CB, flight and post landing, main A and main B closed.
That's correct. And configure for COM on panel 6, 9, and 10.
Okay.
Roger, you got that. Panel 5, circuit breaker, IMU, main A and main B, closed.
CB, IMU, main A and main B closed.
That's correct. Circuit breaker, optics, main A and main B, closed.
Okay, CB, optics, main A and main B closed.
That's correct. CB, GNN, power, AC1 and AC2, closed.
CB, GNN, power, AC1 and AC2 closed.
That's correct. And the GNN power switch to AC2.
Okay, GNN power switch to AC2.
That's correct. Now we want to perform the CMC power-up for the CSM GNC checklist. G2-2.
Perform CMC power-up for the GNC checklist, page 2-2.
That's correct. Perform the EMS check, step 32 of the entry book, page 1-4.
Okay, perform the EMS check per step 32 for the entry checklist, page 1-4.
That's correct. Okay, now the ground is going to give you a P27 update at EI minus 2 plus 1.5. That's a time that you need to be configured to accept up telemetry. And what they're going to give you on a P27 update will be a clock increment, a state vector. They'll give you a verb 66. They'll give you 2 refs mats. There'll be an actual and a preferred and the entry target load. Now, if you'd like to copy those, I can take it a little slower.
No, I got them. They're going to give me a clock delta, state vector, verb 66, 2 ref mats, and an entry target load.
That's correct. Okay, then we'll do
There isn't much else they could give me, is there, Ken?
No, not very much. How about IMU power-up, according to the GNC checklist, G2-1.
Okay, perform IMU power-up for GNC checklist, page 2-1.
That's correct. And while you're there, you can do the optics power-up on G2-3.
Perform the optics power-up per page 2-3.
That's correct. And on panel 229, circuit breaker timers, main A closed.
Okay, panel 229, CB, timer, main A, closed.
That's correct. The next thing you'll do will be to set the mission timer. And what we've done is to only turn on the mission timer on the MDC. And you probably have to wait here until they get through with the uplink so you can have the computer.
Okay, set it from the CMC, huh?
That's firm. Okay, now we're getting ready to start the alignment sequence. And are you familiar with the general sequence of events we're going to use, Jack?
How do you mean? We're going to make an alignment on the moon and on the sun. Other than that, I didn't get any. I wasn't on the headset when the general information was passed up, so if there was any more than that, I didn't get it.
Okay, basically that's correct. Let me just run through it hand-waving type for a minute, and then I'll read you the steps. I think it'll make more sense. The scheme is that the limb can fly to a set of ball angles that will point your optics at the moon. Now, any time, in any attitude that we happen to be at, if you can look in the telescope and recognize star patterns sufficient that you believe you can make an alignment all on your own, that's the place we'd like to break off and let you go ahead and take over with your own alignment. However, we're giving you a procedure which will give you things we know you can see in the telescope without worrying about any reflections or anything of that nature. And it's not intended that this procedure has to be followed past the point where you know you've got good definition of star patterns in your telescope. If you need to go on, we'll maneuver, take a look at the moon, we'll take a mark there, and we'll then maneuver with the limb, FDAI angles again, and take a look at the sun. And get yourself another mark on the sun, and that'll complete the alignment. Now, the alignment scheme is that we're going to give you a set of angles that you can course align the ball to when the limb is pointing you at the moon. Now, this set of angles will agree with the refs mat that you have in as a nominal refs mat in your CMC. You can course align to that, set a drift flag and a refs mat flag, and you'll have a good platform. And we'll be within a couple of degrees of a good alignment. And if we had to, we could break off at this point and go ahead with an entry. However, in an attempt to get a good platform, we're going to have you then do a P52 option 1. And what you're going to find in the option 1 slots is the entry refs mat. You'll come up with the noun 22 values, and we intend to go ahead and course align the ball to the entry refs mat attitude, and then we'll go ahead and take marks through a normal P52 sequence. So that's the general scheme that we're going to use. If you think you have a handle on that, I'll go ahead and read you the steps.
Okay, well, let me ask a question. The limb maneuvers to a set of moon viewing angles. Okay, at this time I'm going to do a P52, is that right, with the planet option?
The first thing we're going to do is to course align the platform and get it inertial based on the refs mat that you have in the present slots inside the CMC. We'll then go and do a P52 option 4, option 1.
Okay, that's after the limb gets established at the attitude. Jim says, I'm here at the moon, viewing attitude. I do verb 41 down 20 to the set of angles that you're going to give me in the pad.
That's
then
affirmative.
I enter the P52.
That's correct.
Okay, and then I enter the P52, and that's an option 3, right?
Now, the P52 will be done as an option 1. The only reason you have the other refs mat inside the computer is that in order to set the refs mat flag, you need some relative orientation.
Okay, I see. I do P52 option 1, and when do I set the refs mat flag and the drift flag?
Okay, that'll be before entering P52. I'm going to give you this procedure in detail.
Okay, all right, let's go at it. Maybe it'll all fall out and I won't have any questions. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm ready to start reading again. We start with a verb 41, noun 20.
Okay, when the limb is at the moon viewing attitude, I do a verb 41 noun 20 enter.
That's right, and you'll put in the attitudes that you'll get from one of the pads, and this will be for the course align angles when the limb is at the moon viewing attitude. Then when they're all squared away, and they tell you they've got the right attitude, we then pick up again with a verb 40, noun 20, enter.
Okay, verb 40, noun 20, enter. When the moon is, the limb is satisfied that they're at the moon viewing attitude.
That's correct. Now we're going to set the refs mat and drift flags according to the GNC checklist, page G7-1, steps 3 and 4.
Okay, set the refinement flag for GSC 7-1, step 3 and 4.
That's correct. Now, verb 37, enter. 52, enter. Option 1.
Verb 37, enter. 52, enter. Option 1.
That's correct. And we'll do the course align.
Okay, perform the course align function there.
Okay, now when it gets back to the mark routines, we want to take a mark on the moon.
Okay, mark on the moon with the crosshairs in the center, is that right?
That's affirmative. Okay, when that's complete, the LEM will maneuver to the sun viewing angle, or attitude. And when they get there, you take a mark on the sun using the sun filter and the telescope, and again, we're marking on the center.
Okay, now, well, let me ask you a question. Is the first mark on the moon made with the, are always made with the telescope and not the sextant?
I'm not sure right offhand what the angular size of the moon is, Jack. If you can get it in the sextant, that's the best thing to do. But you may have to go into the telescope in order to define the center. Either one's acceptable.
Okay, if I can define the center through the sextant, do it that way. If I can't, use the telescope.
That's firm. But we know you're going to use the telescope on the sun. Okay, you ready to press on?
I'm ready.
Okay, I just reminded we owe somebody a BAT B voltage.
Okay, another volts and amps coming up.
All right, thank you. And this left us in P52 with 2 marks, and we'll go ahead and torque the now 93s.
Okay, pulse torque the now 93 after the 2 marks.
Okay, so that gives us a good platform. Now the LEM will maneuver to the Jettison attitude. And the only thing of significance here is that you want to watch to make sure that the path they choose to go to the Jettison attitude avoids gimbal lock on your own platform.
Okay, the LEM maneuvers to the Jettison attitude, and I just monitor the maneuver and yell at Jim if he gets near gimbal lock.
That's firm. Okay, and then the LEM will go to a max deadband attitude hold in the Jettison attitude.
Okay, the LEM goes to max deadband attitude hold.
Okay, now we're ready to go back to work. The next thing I'll do is continue the power-up procedures. Do you have any further questions on that alignment, Jack?
No, I think it's all self-explanatory now.
Okay, the one thing that everybody would like for you to understand is we certainly don't insist on using the moon and the Earth. If you find you have good stars, why use them. However, this alignment is more than adequate to give us a good guided entry.
Okay, if I get a set of good stars, do I start right out and do a basic P51 and a P52 option 1?
That's affirmative.
Okay.
Okay, now we're ready to go to work on panel 275. And it starts with circuit breaker, main A.
Wait just a minute.
Okay.
I owe you some volts and amps.
All right.
Okay, volts are 39.4, amps 1.25.
Okay, I thought maybe your meter was stuck before.
No.
All right, you ready to go back to 275? Have a circuit breaker, main A, bat bus A, closed.
CB, main A, bat bus A, closed.
That's correct. And circuit breaker, main B, bat C, closed.
CD, main Baker, bat Charlie, closed.
Okay, that's correct. Now we're up to EI minus 1 plus 30. at this time, we're going to proceed with the closeout and hatch installation.
Okay, close out and hatch installation at EI minus 130.
That's right, Jack. And we're going to close the LEM hatch. And we'll make the dump valve in the LEM hatch closed.
I understand you're going to close the dump valve now in the LEM hatch, right?
That's correct.
Okay, this is a change from what we had understood previously.
That's correct.
Personally, I'm happy to see it, but that's good.
Okay. That's one vote on your side. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and do the use the decal to perform the hatch installation, and we'll start on the hatch integrity check.
Okay, per the decal, perform the hatch installation and start on the hatch integrity check.
That's correct.
Okay, Ken, one thing I think that, I don't know whether anybody, the decals don't take into account the fact that we still have the umbilicals connected. At what point in time should they be removed?
Okay, Jack, that doesn't matter. We're going to be separating the tunnel upstream of those umbilicals, and you can leave them right there.
Okay, does it make any difference if we disengage? The LEM is, as the LEM, we have pulled the circuit breakers, LEM power 1 and 2, so if we choose to disconnect these umbilicals, there's no harm, right?
That's right. No sweat. John Aaron's just saying that they may be hot. He's checking on that. So how about holding the decision on that and let me come back to you?
Okay.
Okay, and let me tell you what we're going to do since we told you a different story this afternoon on this tunnel. We're actually going to vent the tunnel down so that we end up with about 1.5 to 2 psi absolute in the tunnel. And this will give us a delta P of 3. So we'll do our hatch integrity check at the same time we're venting the tunnel down.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay. Now let me give you some plumbing switches here. Let's take the surge tank oxygen valve to on.
Surge tank O2 to on.
All right. Take the main regs to open.
Okay, main regs 2 to open.
Okay. And the water and glycol tank pressure, the pressure valve and the relief valves to both.
Okay, water and glycol tank pressure and relief valve to both.
That's correct. And the emergency cabin pressure valve to both.
Emergency cabin pressure to both.
That's correct. And the suit demand regs to both.
Suit demand regs to both.
That's correct. Okay, now we're going to panel 5. Circuit breaker, ECS, transducers, pressure group, 1 and 2, main A and main B. That's 4 circuit breakers closed.
ECS transducer, group 1 and 2, main A and main B, 4 to close.
That's correct. Okay, now circuit breaker ECS transducers temperature, main A and main B. That's 2 of them closed.
CB ECS transducer temperature, main A and main B closed.
That's correct. On panel 4, primary ECS glycol pumps 1 to AC1.
Primary ECS glycol pump to 1 AC1.
That's correct. Okay, then we'll finish going back to the tunnel vent and verify the LEM CM delta P and make sure it's been holding pressure. And we'll come back again and rehash all of the hatch integrity check and the tunnel vent procedures with you. The next thing I want to read off is EI minus 1 plus 20. We'll go to panel 7, BMAG number 1 power to warm up.
BMAG number 1 power to warm up.
That's correct. Then at EI minus 1 plus 10, we'll perform SCS power up per the checklist page G2-4.
Okay, perform SCS power up per GSC checklist page 2-4.
That's correct. Okay, on panel 4, suit compressor number 2 to AC1.
Suit compressor 2 to AC1.
That's correct. Spacecraft control to SCS.
Spacecraft control to SCS.
Okay, and your manual attitude switches as you desire. We're coming up on jettison of the LEM, so it's just like separation.
Okay.
Okay, and we'll do a GDC align.
Okay, perform a GDC align.
Okay, on panel 8, rotation control power direct, 1 and 2, main A / main B.
Okay, these are circuit breakers, rotation control power direct, 1 and 2, main A and main B closed.
Okay, Jack, I was thinking switch. Let me verify that's a circuit breaker too. I think we have to get both of them.
Okay, there's those 4 circuit breakers over there. Ken, when you said panel 8, that's what I thought you were talking about. I don't think the circuit breakers are out right now, but why don't we just verify the circuit breakers, put the switches to main A, main B.
Okay, that's correct, Jack. Okay, at EI minus 1 hour, we're going to be doing the LEM jettison. So just prior to that, we want to do a P47.
Okay, say at about 1 minute prior to LEM jettison, huh?
Yeah, just something that's comfortable for you.
Okay.
All right, after we've done that, we want to get panel 8, sequential pyro arm, 2 of them, on.
Okay, I get a go for misspin for this.
Okay, John says we can watch it.
Okay.
All right, the next thing is CSM LEM final SEP, 2 of them, on up.
CSM LEM final SEP 2 on.
That's correct. Now we're going back to panel 8, and it's sequential pyro arm, 2 of them to safe.
Okay, sec pyro arm 2 to safe.
That's correct, and go back to poo.
go to poo.
All right, and now it's time to configure for single ring.
Okay, configure for single ring RCS.
That's right, and since you're still an hour from EI, I guess it wouldn't hurt to use minimum impulse or something like that rather than the DAP, at least not to where you get a little closer down. We'll have the DAP loads for you later.
Okay.
Okay, and as soon as you've gotten yourself all set up with a good control mode, we want to maneuver to the entry attitude.
Maneuver to entry attitude per the pad.
That's correct. And we show EI minus 55, which really means when you get to the entry attitude, we have a sextant star check for you. And that'll be on the pad.
Okay, perform the sextant star check.
Okay. And want to remind you to park the optics at 90 degree of shaft.
Okay, say again why, Ken. I didn't understand that.
Okay, this is just a precaution, Jack. If we park the optics with a 90 degree shaft angle, that'll line up the slit so that it gives you the best airflow over that part of the heat shield and avoids a hot spot. If you don't remember it, I don't think it makes much difference. It's just good procedure.
Okay.
Okay, and after you've got it parked wherever you want it, we'll turn the optics power off and stow the optics.
Okay, optics power off, stow the optics.
Okay, that's good. Okay, and the next thing we'll do is to initialize the EMS, and that's on entry checklist, page 2-1, step number 2.
Okay, perform EMS initialization for entry checklist, page 2-1, step 2.
Okay, that's correct. Now we're coming up on EI minus 45 minutes, and we'll give you an entry pad and a final state vector.
Okay, EI minus 45, entry pad and final state vector from Misfit.
Okay, now we're going to perform what we call the moon check. Rather than go into detail, if you already know what we're doing, just say so. Otherwise, I'll describe the use of the moon attitude set.
Maybe you better describe it.
Okay, Jack, you remember everybody in the past has commented on seeing moon set just a couple of minutes prior to EI. And your horizon will probably be dark at the time you get there. You have an early morning entry, and coming in from the west, you'll still be looking at a dark horizon. So just as a backup technique, just like you would track the horizon, we're going to give you an attitude which will be on the pad so that you can look directly at the moon. This is an inertial attitude. It won't be changing. And if you'll put the 36 degree window line on the moon and then just sit there and watch it, and just prior to EI, the Earth will come up and occult it, and you'll then have a good horizon check. And I have some times, I'll give you that later. And if you just look at this thing, at that point you can set the GDC or whatever you desire, and you'll have a known attitude reference. It's just like a horizon check.
Okay, I maneuver to the moon check attitude, at which time I put the 36 window line on the moon, and just prior to EI, the Earth will occult the moon.
That's correct. And that corresponds to the same inertial attitude that you'd have on the back of your entry card, where it shows the horizon attitude several minutes prior to EI. It's the same thing.
Yeah, that's that one at 17 minutes prior. Okay.
Okay, we're just getting it in a little closer. Okay, the next item on the checklist here is an EI minus 40. We're going to panel 7, and it's BMAG number 2 power to warm up.
Okay, panel 7, BMAG number 2 power to warm up.
That's correct. Now I'd like to verify the surge tank and repress packages are on.
This is Apollo Control at 127 hours, 31 minutes. We've completed the shift handover in Mission Control. A change of shift briefing is scheduled to begin in about 15 minutes at 9 p.m. in the main News Center auditorium in Building 1.
Control system, wastewater, urine duct heater, 2 of them, closed.
Panel 5, CBECS, waste H2O, and urine duct heater 2 to close.
That's correct. Suit compressor, number 2 to off.
Suit compressor 2 to off.
That's right, Jack. And what we're planning to do in order to conserve power is we're going to run the suit compressor from an hour to this point at minus 40. And we'll be watching the PCO2. If that thing's working, we'll turn it off at the earliest time when we have a good cabin. And then we'll just leave it off. And in the event that the PCO2 gauge isn't working properly or something like that, well, we'll just go ahead and run it for this time frame.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, now we're at EI minus 30. Sequential logic, that's 2 of them, to on, up.
EI minus 30, fix logic 2 on.
Okay, and panel 7, the BMAG number 2 power to on.
Okay, you only gave that 10 minutes for the warm-up, huh?
That's okay.
Okay.
All right, and then FDAI power to both.
FDAI power to both.
Okay. And we want to activate the primary evaporator.
Okay, activate the primary evaporator. All this time, Ken, what have we been getting our cooling? Right now, I think we have the radiators at full to bypass.
That's correct. We started out that way, and we turned the glycol pumps on, and we're just circulating it internally. And we're counting on the command module being a heat sink. It's pretty cold-soaked, and looks like this is good enough. You got some relatively low heat loads, and we'll keep watching the temps, and if we need it, well, we'll start the evaporator early.
Okay, that sounds good.
Do you believe it's cold up there?
Yes, we used to call the command module the bedroom, and it's now the refrigerator.
Okay, just don't call it the reefer. Okay, at about EI minus 19, we get back into the standard entry checklist on page 2-2, where it starts with P61.
Okay, at EI minus 19, we get back into the entry checklist at page 2-2, where we start entering P61.
Okay, Jack. Now those are the timeline notes I had for you. I hate to tell you this, but I also have a couple of corrections to make to the entry checklist. They aren't corrections, they just are pieces of the entry checklist which will correspond to what I've already read to you. And I'm ready to go on that whenever you are. And Vance tells me that you can get into the descent water for drinking now.
We can get into the descent water for drinking, huh?
Uh-huh.
Sounds good.
Hey, go to it.
Jim would like to know whether the descent water will be good until LEM jettison.
Okay, Jack, looks like we're going to go on the ascent tanks at 128.30. And it looks like you have plenty of water. I'm sorry we cut each other out. Say again.
Yeah, I was going to say, I understand we're going to go on to ascent tanks at 128.30.
That's right. Based on the current rate, that's what they predict, and you can go ahead and drink the water. No sweat.
Okay, real fine. And
Check.
I've had the entry checklist out, and I'm ready to copy. Just give me the page.
Oh, okay.
Jack, you're starting to sound like an LMP.
I think I'm probably the only CMP that's ever witnessed a LEM burned from inside the LEM in space flight.
I hope it stays that way. Okay, Jack, we're starting on page 1-1.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, down in the middle of the page on line 9, we're just going to strike out the activate VHF for comm checks, and line 10, verify the DSE. We're going to leave the DSE off. That's to save power, as is the VHF activation.
Okay.
Okay, on page 1-2. At minus 2 hours, there's a tidal logic sequence check, and we're deleting that entire sequence. That's included in what I read up to you.
Okay, delete the logic sequence check at minus 2 hours there.
That's correct. And delete lines 23, 24, and 25. That means the maneuver to super circ entry attitude. Everything below that is deleted.
Okay, delete lines 23 through 28.
That's correct. You got ahead of me. All right, on line 29 on page 1-3, we're going to put in a time of minus 0055. That's the time we give you for the bore side check.
Okay.
It's a sextant check, really.
Got that?
Okay, on the top of page 1-4, where it said 1 hour and 15 minutes next to line 32, we're going to change that to minus 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Okay, minus 230, opposite item 32.
Okay, down at the bottom of the EMS entry check, right there where we are, the bottom line now reads EMS mode to standby. Well, just above that, I'd like to remind you to put a remark, do not initialize the range to go. This is because you're going to come into the EMS entry check, you're going to run through all these things, and we're going to remove power from the EMS. And just didn't want you to get ahead of yourself and initialize the entry parameters, because you'll lose them when we power up.
Okay.
And after we go EMS mode to standby, I'd like for you to add circuit breaker EMS 2 to open.
Okay, CB EMS 2 to open.
That's correct. And we want to delete this setup camera listed on the bottom of the page. We're deleting that for power reasons. That's line 33 alpha.
Okay, we're way ahead of you. We already got it stowed.
Okay. On the top of the next page, where it says secondary water evap, just keep in mind we don't plan to use the secondary evaporators unless the primary fails. On line 35 on page 1-5, next to command module RCS preheat, the time is now minus 6:30.
Okay, minus 630, and the voltage reading 3.9 still is good, right?
Okay, very good. Under final stowage, the first thing that's listed on line 36, page 1-5, is optics. And if you want to get started on your stowage, we'd like to leave the optics out because we'll have the star check coming up quite a bit after this. The rest of that stuff can be taken care of at your convenience.
Okay.
All right, still on page 1-5, line 37. The time is now minus 6:10.
Got that?
Okay, and this is one time it looks like we might actually do the preheat. So that's the reason we wanted to make sure that we know that not more than 20 minutes of time on the preheat. We may not be able to watch you at that time because you aren't powered up.
Okay, either 20 minutes or till 3.9 volts DC.
That's correct, Jack. And now let's go to page 1-6. And about a third of the way down, it shows panel 275, CB main A, bat C, close. We want to strike off that line, the next two lines. So we're going to strike out main A, bat C, close, main B, bat C, close, and DC indicator, main B.
Okay, after that step on panel 275, strike out CB main A, bat C, CB main B, bat C, and DC indicators to main B.
That's correct. Now under panel 8, it tells you to close all circuit breakers except, and I have 4 additions. The first one is CB service module, RCS heaters, quad Charlie, main B, open.
Service module RCS heater, quad Charlie, main Baker open.
Okay, and the same thing for service module RCS heaters, quad Delta, main A, open.
Service module RCS heaters, quad Delta, main A, open.
That's correct. And circuit breaker EMS, that's 2 of them, open.
CB EMS 2 to open.
All right, and the last is the circuit breakers for SBS gauging, 4 of them, open.
SBS gauging 4 to open.
Okay, and how about a readout on the battery and the charger?
Okay, bats and volts and amps.
That's firm. And let's go back to page 1-6, line 41. Let's put in a time minus 440.
Minus 440.
That's correct. On page 2-1. Line number 2, put in a time of minus 55 minutes.
Okay, minus 55 minutes.
Okay, and the first thing you want to do under EMS initialization is circuit breakers, EMS, that's 2 of them, to close.
Okay, CB EMS 2 to close.
That's correct. All right, line 4, or step 4, where it shows CMRCS check, that occurs at minus 430.
Okay, minus 430.
All right, under CMRCS checks, the 4th line down says manual attitude 3 to minimum impulse. We'll have to use Excel command, and the reason for that, Jack, is we don't have the SCS powered up, so there's no minimum impulse generator.
Okay, manual attitude 3 to Excel command.
That's correct. And on the same page, 2-1, strike out the last 3 lines, starting with RCS transfer to service module.
Right, we last 3 lines are scratched out. We ain't got one of those things.
That's correct. Okay, let's flip to page 2-2 and strike out the first 2 lines.
Okay, wait a second. I need to give you volts and amps, Ken.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, it's 39.6, 1.12.
Sounds like you're getting there. Okay, I believe we scratched out the first 2 lines on 2-2. Now we're right below that. It says separation checklist. So we're going to just delete that whole thing. It's included in the notes I gave you.
Okay, It's included in the notation.
All right, line number 7. It says maneuver to horizon check attitude. We're going to call this the moon check attitude. And this is the one we discussed, Jack. The angle of 265 is not correct. I'll have one of those for you first thing in the morning.
Okay.
Okay, and at the bottom of the page, step number 1. That'll be at EI minus 19 minutes, and we're off and running through a normal sequence of events.
Okay, that sounds good. Ken, I guess you've run this thing. Is it a comfortable timeline? Any areas where you had problems with?
Jack, it is very comfortable. We've run it several times now, and in fact, it's being run right now again. And we've run it both here in Houston and at the Cape. The only place where you might find that you need to stay ahead of things is during the platform alignment period when you're getting ready to close out the limb. And then once you get into the command module and jettison the limb, you're back on a very comfortable time. And, of course, we'll be watching you. Anything we can do, like keeping track of time for you, we'll remind you of that as we go along.
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good, Ken.
Okay, let me emphasize, Jack, that 2.5 hours is the earliest time we can start in on that power-up stuff. Everything else you can do the way you normally would, where you get as far ahead of the game as you can. But the 2.5 hour time is based on saving command module consumables. And if you do that while we're fat, we've got plenty of time, give you some fans on the water even. So that's the one point you don't want to start early on. I do have a couple more lines to run through on the entry checklist and 2 pages in the GNC, and I think that'll clean us up.
Okay, Ken, in the GNC checklist now?
Let me finish a couple more things in the entry book. You still got that?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, on these are just cleanup items, Jack. On page 2-3, it lists how you separate from the CM-SM SEP and all that. So obviously from step 5 at 43 minutes down, that's all deleted. And that gets deleted all the way over onto page 2-4 up to the line where it says 50 minutes. And at that point, we pick back up and everything from 50 minutes down is valid.
Okay, delete item 5 down to the point where it says minus 50 minutes.
That's correct, Jack. Okay, on page 2-5, the top line where we had horizon check, that's now the moon set check, and the time is approximately 57:37, and that's minus 2:23. And that angle that's listed in the book there, 177, that's really the horizon time at 2 minutes. We'll have you can look that up on the back of your entry cue card, and I'll look that number up again for you tonight.
Okay.
Okay, another thing is to remember when we begin blackout, which is around 05G, and you can write this in your checklist wherever it's convenient. Once we've lost comm, we're going to go ahead and power down the SCE power off and the PMP power off. And we just want to do that after you lose comm, which comes up around EI. Anytime after that, just go ahead and secure the PMP and the SCE power.
Okay, when comm is lost, SCE power off, PMP power off.
That's correct, Jack, and that completes the entry checklist. Let's look at the GNC book.
Okay, ready to copy?
Okay, let's go to page 2-1.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Jack, the second line under IMU power up says FDAI power to both, and we're going to make that a 1. The reason we're doing that is, again, to conserve power. There's no reason to drive the second FDAI before we get some information to put on it.
Okay. FDI power to 1.
All right, that's correct. On page 2-2.
Go ahead.
Okay, under CMC power up, line or step 2 says flashing 3700 enter. The time we're going to use this, Jack, is going to be when you've just brought the computer up, and it has a state vector in it that's way back many hours ago. So we want to do a verb 96 enter to stop the integration, to keep it from just sit there ambling along. And when the ground gives you a new state vector, why, then we can go through poo and we'll be back in business.
Okay, do you want me to go to verb 37 enter, 00 enter, and then do verb 96?
When you come up, I guess you're going to, once you get the CMC powered up, you're probably going to be going, you're going to come up in a flashing 37, and if you'll just do a verb 96 enter right there, that'll take care of it.
Okay.
All right, and the last one I have for you is on page 2-4.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, under the SCS power up, the first line says auto RCS select 16 to off. Okay, you can just delete that part. On the fifth line, it says circuit breaker SCS logic power. That's really logic bus, 4 of them to close. The delta V CG is not important since we're not burning the engine. The signal conditioner driver bias power lists 2 to AC1. We're going to make that just one of them. Make it signal condition driver bias power 1 to AC1. The BMAG power, which is the third line from the bottom, says BMAG power 2 on. We're going to make that just 1. We'll bring up number 1. And we'll make FDAI power number 1. And the last line, auto RCS select 16 enable, you can strike that off and replace it with BMAG mode 3 of them to rate 1. You want to try reading that back?
Okay. Delete auto RCS select 16 off. Change CB logic power to logic bus power. CB SCS logic bus 4 to close. Delete Delta VCG. Coming down here, signal conditioner driver bias power 1 to AC1. BMAG power 1 to on. And it's the number 1 BMAG. FDA power to 1. BMAG mode 3 to rate 1, deleting the auto RCS select 16 to enable.
That's correct. You've got them all, Jack. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. This does it, huh?
Yes, sir. Let's see. Well, just a second. Let me check on this hatch integrity check. Maybe I can tell you something about that. And I do have an answer to your LEM power question about the umbilicals. The umbilicals will be unpowered according to the LEM procedures. So if you'd like to disconnect them, you can.
Okay, I think we will.
All right, sir. Okay, Jack, and they'd like for us to stand by just a second.
Jack, would you get the battery charger off, please? And we'll finish the rest of that procedure later.
You mean there's more? Okay, in work, battery charger is going off.
Right.
Okay, Vance, I don't think you've given me the back-out procedure, have you, for the battery charger?
That's negative. All we want to do, Jack, is say battery charge off at the moment, and we'll complete that procedure as soon as you're through with Ken completely.
Okay, Vance, the battery charger's off, and I'm ready to continue with Ken.
Okay, Jack, and we'll get the back out to you after that.
Okay, Jack, it looks like we've closed up the loose ends. There's, amazingly enough, out of all that stuff, it looks like we only generated one question on the floor, and we'll research that one. We'll even let you guess what it might have been. If you have any questions after you mull it over, why, we're always available. Just ask us what you're thinking about.
Okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to wait till the LEM people get theirs, and then we're going to discuss it, coordinate things here, and make sure that we don't have any interface problems. And if we have any questions, we'll be coming back at you.
Okay, we did run the thing integrated, so we think we've got all the little surprises ironed out for you.
I hope so, because tomorrow's examination time.
Raj.
Ken, this is Jim.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate the work you've done, and Jack says it's going to be hard to beat his record about saving SMRCS fuel all the way there and back.
I can't do much about that. Some people will do anything to set a record.
Hey, Jim, you even did good on service module fuel this time.
Yeah, we're coming back with a full load almost, both RCS and SPS. That's pretty much of a record. Okay, did you want to put Fredo on or somebody to copy the LEM side of the house?
Hey, Jack, don't wake him up yet. Stand by one.
Oh, he's awake.
Hey, Jack, we'll give you this battery charging back-out procedure, and then Deke says you ought to get some sleep. You're going to need it tomorrow.
Okay, I'm ready to copy the back-out procedure.
Okay. Panel 3. Battery charge off. You've already done that, Jack. Next. AC inverter. Inverter 2 off. Panel 5. Main bus tie bat B/C to bat B/C. It's up position. Panel 250. Circuit breaker bat A, power entry / post landing to open. Circuit breaker bat B, power entry post landing open. Panel 5. CB battery charger, bat B charge, open. Okay, I'll let you read that back, Jack.
Okay, bat charge off. AC inverter 2 to off. Main bus tie, bat DC to on up. Panel 250, CB bat A, power entry and post landing open. CB bat B, power entry and post landing open. Panel 5, CB bat charger, bat B charged open.
Okay, that's correct. Now that gets you back to the place where you can back out of the big battery charging procedure, which you have. And I think you have the back out procedure for that, but I'd like to check with you.
Okay, stand by here.
Okay, Jack, do you have that back out procedure in your hand there?
Yes, I do, Vance.
Okay, just to verify, starts out panel 3, battery charge switch off, AC inverter 2 off, panel 5, main bus tie bat AC on up, etc.
continue. CB Bat A, power entry post landing open. Inverter power 2 main B open. And then you reverse the steps that you had for entering the procedure.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and we have one other comment regarding the systems checklist, and stand by one, and that'll wrap it up for us. Oh, a new item came in, Jack. We need to switch to ascent water, and I have a 3-step procedure for you, if you're ready to copy.
Okay, Jim will copy that.
Okay. Descent water valve close. Ascent water valve to close. And water tank select valve to ascent.
Okay, Vance, descent water valve closed, ascent water valve closed, and water select tank to ascent. Is that correct?
Water tank select valve ascent. That's correct, Jim.
And we're proceeding with that right now. And how about it still drinking descent water?
Jim, we understand that you should be able to continue drinking it.
Okay, we switched to ascent water, but we'll probably have to have the descent water valve back open up again to drink water.
That's a firm. That's the one thing you'll have to do is whenever you want to drink out of the descent tank is open the descent valve, the descent water valve momentarily.
Okay. And we are now on ascent water.
Okay. Okay, and I need Jack back again, please.
Okay, Vance, I'm here, and you have something in the systems checklist.
That's right. Refer to S2-6. This, really what we're talking about, Jack, is the hatch integrity check decal. And I think it'll be easiest if you open to S2-6 and I explain it to you.
Okay, Vance, I'm ready to copy.
Okay. This just involves changes. Look down to the third line where it says tunnel vent valve, tunnel vent for 30 seconds. Cross out 30 seconds and cross out the 2 lines below that. In other words, LEM CSM delta P, check delta P, and recycle to tunnel vent.
Okay, you want me to delete for 30 seconds?
That's affirmed. And the 2 lines below 30 seconds. And actually the part of a 4th line there, which is 8.5 minutes.
Stand by. Can you read okay?
Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay, delete the 2 lines below that, or the 2.5 lines below that also.
That's affirmed. And now we have an addition to put in place of what we deleted. Stand by when the comm's bad.